came in. There she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I was having some technical difficulties over here finding you, but
Yeah, no
we're
problem.
able to connect. So so glad that you're able to join us today. And I got to ask before we get started, do you have any coffee with you for this coffee?
I do.
Awesome. Awesome. I don't. I can't believe I don't. What am I up to here? But yeah, so getting yourself going for the day, as I'm sure many folks are out there right now. So everyone, welcome into day 2 of Eating Disorder Awareness Week. We're going to have another coffee chat. Today, I'm super excited about our guest, Erin Golden. She is one of our amazing volunteers here at ANID, and it really is the volunteers who are the heartbeat of the organization, and you're changing lives every single day. So thank you for the work that you do. And Erin, I'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, share a little bit about your story and what you do here at ANID.
Sure. Yeah. So I, like you said, I am a volunteer. So I've been leading the LGBTQ plus group for about 1.5 years now. Sorry, my cat is jumping at something. But I've been leading that group for about 1.5 years now, and that's the entirety of my experience with ANID. So that's the first group I've led, and I loved it so much that I've been so happy to be able to stick around with it. Story-wise, I guess in short, I think like a lot of people who have had eating disorders went through some kind of difficult and tumultuous relationships when I was younger, specifically in my family. And so I felt pretty isolated, and I thought that the way to find connection and find control over my life was making myself more appealing to other people through engaging in behaviors, and that later became an eating disorder for me. When I eventually did get some help, I think that the most important part of recovery for me was finding peer support. So finding other people who understood what I was going through and who were reacting in ways that I understood. So there was no frustration or anger or confusion to my story. It was just understanding. So finding that peer support was, I think, the thing that was most critical in helping me recover. And that's why I wanted to come back and be part of peer support. So yeah, I've been really grateful that I've been able to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I know when I was going through my eating disorder and starting recovery, that peer support element was so critical for me because it helped me be seen. It helped me feel like I was less alone. So there really is a power to that lived experience. And then have you noticed that in your communications with the support group and leading the support group, that it's still helping you heal? Because I notice that all the time, that on my own journey, the more I connect with other people, the more I still continue to heal as I recover from the eating disorder.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everybody I've spoken to who's led a group has felt the same way too. I'm a team lead, so I have a couple of other support group leaders who I meet with every month to see how they're doing. And I think that that's been like the through line, is everybody feels a lot better being able to help other people, not just because they're helping other people, but because the group is helping them too. Like the best advice I've ever heard in my whole life has come from group.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that we've got you
Thanks.
to help out and to be there as a supporter for the LGBTQ plus community. I am a gay man myself, and it is definitely something I don't think that we talk about enough still. Just I saw one of the statistics the other day that over 80% of LGBTQ plus teens are uncomfortable with their bodies or dissatisfied with their bodies. And I think it's just something that we need to talk about more. And I'd be curious to see what kind of changes you'd like to see when it comes to the awareness around peer support and the awareness within the LGBTQ plus community.
Sure, yeah, the theme, right? Time for change. I think that, how do I say this? I think that that's definitely something that I've noticed in my personal life as well as in group, is that a lot of people, even if they aren't quite at a level where they would say that they have an eating disorder, have a lot of body dysmorphia or discomfort. And I think that one of the ways that people attempt to address like general discomfort or maybe like rejection from peers or from family is eating disorder behaviors. So it is a massive issue in the LGBTQ community. And I think that also as going along with there being more people with eating disorders, there's also a lot more people who just don't ever get treatment, whether that's because they are never diagnosed or because they don't have access to treatment for a number of reasons. Treatment's very expensive, for example. I think that that's a massive issue. And I think that there are a lot of really complicated intersections when it comes to gender and eating disorders. So there are a lot of trans people in our group, and I think that they have oftentimes really fraught experiences with the medical system just in their daily lives, and that becomes even more complicated with eating disorders. So I think that I was thinking about this earlier, and I think that the thing that I would like to see change the most in terms of eating disorder care and awareness is more awareness of barriers to treatment and barriers to successful recovery, as well as like a more intersectional approach to eating disorder treatment, where everyone's recovery looks different, but that's especially true if you have other identities. So if you're gay, if you're trans, this is also really true for people with disabilities or people in larger bodies or people of color. I think that recovery needs to be more inclusive of different experiences, and treatment providers need to be better educated of those nuances.
Yeah. Mic drop after that. I don't think I've got any to say. That was incredible. It reminds me of something. So yesterday I was talking to Marcus Kane, and we were talking about guys with eating disorders and how it's almost like we've taken the eating disorder recovery blueprint for other individuals, and we've just tried to apply that to so many different communities. But we have to realize that it's different for every community. We've got different values, different experiences, and we can't just copy and paste. This is something that needs to be inclusive. It needs to be individualized. And I think we need to do a better job of getting to know the different communities that exist out there, getting to know how we can communicate with them and tear down some of these barriers to treatment so that it feels like a recovery program. It feels like a support program that actually speaks to their values and their interests.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think like that's part of why I like peer support so much, is it's a way to see how other people recover and see what their eating disorders look like, and see people with like very different experiences with treatment and very different like ways of finding community and also of having gotten into their eating disorder. So yeah, I think that's definitely true. I've learned so much from the people in my group.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask. And for the folks who are out there right now who have gone through an eating disorder themselves, they've gone through recovery and they want to help, but they're not sure about, if they're ready to take that step yet to lead a support group or to volunteer to help on the helpline. What would you say to them? What would you say your experience has been being a volunteer, and, how can they help make a difference?
So in terms of people who would like to volunteer but don't feel ready, I think nobody really feels ready to assume responsibility like that. I think it's always kind of stressful stepping into a role where you have to talk about yourself in ways that you're not normally asked to. And it's okay if you don't always have answers. The purpose of peer support isn't to be a therapist. It's not to fix anyone. It's not to, show them how to recover. Everyone's recovery needs to be individualized, and so it's not an environment where you can push people into it, but it's about talking about your experience. It's about, I think, fundamentally proving to other people that recovery is possible. I think that's maybe the most important part about peer support, is showing that the world looks different to every person, and sometimes that means that even when you don't see recovery as an option for yourself, you can see it for other people and at least be willing to take that plunge. So just being there is enough, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then if you're someone who wants to help people with eating disorders or help people who are engaging in behaviors or having disordered thoughts, but you don't want to volunteer, so listening to people who have different experiences than you do, finding ways to talk about eating disorders and talk about kind of subtler behaviors that show up in culture a lot, and helping to like be a resource in your community, even if it's not formal, through a volunteer organization.
Yeah, that is great advice. One thing I would add there too is to share your story. For me, one of the most healing things in my recovery journey is to hear other people's stories. because it really gave me an opportunity to, one, see that recovery is possible, but two, it helped me better understand my own story, because it's one of those things, like when you're going through the storm yourself, you don't always realize everything that's going on, but you can look at somebody else's life and be like, oh yeah, I see X, Y, and Z. Well, then you start to apply that to yourself, and it really all starts to click. It all starts to make sense what your journey is actually looking like. So I think that's one of the coolest parts about peer support. So before we wrap up here today, the theme of the week is it's time for change. So what are some things we can do just in our day-to-day lives when it comes to enacting? How can we spark the change that is so needed to break down some of those barriers to treatment and to raise awareness?
That's a good question. I feel like that's like the hard part, right? Is like talking about change is so easy, and then actually enacting it is a lot more difficult. I think from smallest to largest scale, I think smaller scale things are understanding your own behaviors, and not perpetuating things that might be harmful. Also, like shutting down diet talk is really important. Affirming other people's bodies as they are, not giving appearance-based compliments are great ways to start. Helping people like see their own worth and their body as it is without feeling like they have to change it, I think is really important. Understanding stigma, understanding things that affect different communities, remembering that you have no idea if somebody has an eating disorder until they tell you. Not assuming things about people's health or about their bodies or about their experiences without them telling you. People in all bodies can experience eating disorders. I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot, is that there's no look for an eating disorder. And then more broadly, I think if you're in healthcare, educating yourself better, that's something that I really like seeing in like the healthcare organization that I'm part of, is when people feel comfortable talking about eating disorders as like important like medical and mental health issues. And then beyond just educating yourself, I'm a big believer that like healthcare reform is really important to making sure that people get adequate care. Eating disorder treatment is so expensive, and it's not covered by a lot of insurance. And so I think advocating for more comprehensive coverage or like sliding scale coverage and things like that is also really important for making sure that people get the care they need.
Yep. Yeah, and that is why we take pride in being able to offer the free peer support services here at ANID, because we know that it can be very hard for people to find resources out there, which is why we make sure that our support services at least are free and available to everybody. And you gave me a great idea when you were talking about education and getting to know other communities. So I challenge everybody out there today to find 5 social media accounts today of members in other communities and start following them, because I think that's how we can start to get to learn other people and learn more about other people's experiences. So take a look on social media today, find 5 people in a community that's different than your own, and use that as an opportunity to learn a little bit more and to break down some of those walls that we've built between us. So, all right, Erin, anything else you want to add before we wrap up here today?
I guess the last thing I want to add is, if you're somebody who's watching this and you're like, I want to be involved in peer support, like I would love to be part of a group. My group is on Mondays at 4 p.m. Central Time, and it's for LGBTQ people with eating disorders, and I recommend it. I think it's a really good community for the people in it, and I know that it's a really tight-knit group. So.
Awesome. Yeah, and you can register for the group at anid.org, and with that, we will go ahead and wrap up today. I really appreciate you joining me today and sharing your experiences. And again, thank you for all the work you do. The volunteers here at ANID are just, like I said, the heartbeat of the organization. So we thank you so much for.
Yeah, thank you so much too.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.